Hello everyone, welcome back to another video with me, Kirti. Coming Christmas seasons, I decided to make a beautiful home decor by upcycling some mason jars using craft angle chalk paints. So let's begin. These are the mason jars I'm going to use, but I don't need these lids, so I'm keeping them away. I'm going to use just two products. First, texture paste black and gesso white. So here, gesso we are going to use as a primer and texture paste obviously to provide slight of texture on the surface of glass. In my last tutorial, I have mentioned that as long as the surface is absorbent, we don't need to use gesso or primer. Wood was absorbent surface whereas glass is a non-absorbent surface. That's why for my mason jars I'm going to use primer and also I'm going to use texture paste to add the slight of texture as mentioned before. As you have seen, my final product is red and white in color, but the primer here I'm going to use is neither black nor white, but I have made a combination of texture paste and gesso to give a gray color because I didn't want it to be on too darker side or to be on too lighter side. With the black as base, our final resultant red or white color would have been on darker side. With white as a base, the final color would be on lighter side. That's why I have created this gray combination. Also, for the first layer of my gesso and texture paste, I am using sponge dauber, and from the second layer, I'm going to use a brush. You see, different tools give different kind of coverage and textures. As we move to the second layer, you will see the kind of technique I have adopted for applying the second layer with the help of brush. Another point to note here is we are going to apply multiple layers of primer as well as the multiple layers of chalk paints. But every time we move to the next layer, we may have to make sure that the previous layer has dried completely. Now let's move to the second layer, same with white gesso and black texture paste. But this time we are going to use the brush. You will see that I'm not going to swipe my primer with the brush. I'm using it as a kind of dabbing with the brush. That is to ensure another thick kind of layer of my primer. I'm going to use this same procedure on both the mason jars. That is gesso plus texture paste with sponge and gesso plus texture paste with brush. Let us have some music while you enjoy observing this process. layers of primer on both the jars have dried out completely well. Our jars are ready for the coat of chalk paints. I'm going to use perfect Christmas colors, tomato red and snow white by Craftangle's chalk paint. I'm going to apply these chalk paints with the help of my brush, just coating up first layer really well with the white paint. And when this first layer is done completely, I'll put it aside for some time and we'll do the second mason jar, which I'm going to do with tomato red chalk paint. Similarly, with the help of brush and coating up first layer really well on my mason jar. When this layer is done, I'll put this aside for some time to dry, but I'm not letting it dry completely. When it is partially dried, I will be using a wipe off technique. As the name suggests, wipe off technique literally means wiping off the partially wet paint, leaving behind the partially dried paint. This gives the see-through effect between the two layers of paint. One that we have applied at the bottom, that is our gray color primer, and second, the chalk paint, which is red in color. I'm going to use a paper napkin to gently wipe off the partially wet paint. If we put more pressure, the chances are we will end up wiping off the full red layer as well as the base layer of primer. Sometimes due to the wetness of upper layer, the bottom layer also tend to become wet. This way we can completely wipe off our primer as well as our new paint. I'm going to repeat the same procedure until I am satisfied with the effect I am expecting for. After 2 layers, I have been able to achieve the effect I wanted, and therefore for the last layer I simply used dry brushing with the help of red paint where I wanted to add little bit of more red. Repeating the same steps and techniques with the white color mason jar. After letting all these things dry, as of now these jars are absolutely. So I'm going to use white twine on the red ball, and to secure everything in place I'm going to use the hot glue gun. I find it a little difficult to work it on the camera, so I will use it behind the camera. These are ready. I hope you like them. And if you do, don't forget to subscribe. Also, you can follow me on Facebook, YouTube and Instagram under the name Kitty's Craft Castle. Thank you for watching. Bye.